Welcome to your practice. For today's class, you'll need a foam roller and a lacrosse ball or tennis ball, and optional blocks if you need a little extra height. So for our class today, you'll want to come onto a soft surface, whether that's a yoga mat or a carpeted surface or just a rug. But we're going to grab our lacrosse ball and place it under our feet as we're in standing. And just start to make passes back and forth on the bottom of your foot. Not putting too much pressure here. We don't want to cause injury to the tissues in your foot, but we want to just start massaging those intrinsic foot muscles, the muscles that make up your arches in your foot and the muscles that sit in between the bones of your feet. And you can get a little playful here. You can kind of splay your toes over the ball. Maybe find a tender spot. I did a run yesterday, so I have some pretty tender spots in my foot. And if you do find tender spots throughout your body during this practice, you can always pause and hold and work into those areas as long as you need to. When you're ready, we're going to switch to our opposite foot. Just again, starting to explore where you're feeling a little tight and tender today. If you feel a particularly tender area, just pause and focus on that. You can go up and down, side to side, get a little cross friction massage back and forth. Again, splaying the toes over the ball, rolling all the way to the heel. And at any point during this class, if you feel like I'm moving too fast, feel free to pause the video and just work on specific areas. My right side is much more tender than my left, so I spend a little more time on my right side. But when you're ready, we're going to come down to the floor and grab your foam roller. And we'll start on our right leg. So place the foam roller pretty close down by your right ankle. And we're not going to do anything but simply roll our leg in and out by bending our knee. And we're going to start to move our toes in like a windshield wiper fashion. So just side to side so that we're hitting the soleus. If that feels okay, then you can start to lift your bum off the floor and just start to make that a little bit more intense by applying more of your body weight pressure onto the muscles. And we're just trying to loosen up the fascia of our muscles. It's this covering that coats all of our muscles in our body, and this deep pressure really helps to alleviate that tension. And again, we're just exploring. We're zigzagging side to side. We're rolling up and down. We're just moving, but slowly and consciously. And we're going to begin to kind of move a little closer to our calf, up a little bit higher towards the knee. Again, no body weight. And then if it feels okay, just starting to lift your bum and applying a little bit more pressure. We have two heads of our calf, so we have our medial gastroc head and our lateral gastroc head, so we're rolling side to side between those two. Now, if you feel pretty good, you can start to cross your left leg over your right, and if you find a trigger point or this really tender spot in your muscle, you can work into that a little bit deeper, which is what I'm doing right here. Right where my calf head starts, I get a huge trigger point often with running, so I'm going to work there a little bit more. This is pretty intense for me, so I rarely come all the way off the ground like that, but if you feel okay, you can absolutely do so. Again, just explore, play around, don't rush it, take your time, slow movements. And then when you are ready, we're going to do the same exact thing on your left leg. So we'll just take a moment to windshield wiper blade side to side, no lift of the hips. And if that feels good, we'll start to lift the bum and roll. We're still staying pretty low down by the ankle and the soleus, but beginning to make your way up a little bit higher towards those calf heads. Remembering that if it's too intense to lift the hips, you can always stay down on the ground. I'm about to give you a break here in just a minute on the shoulders. Foam rolling can be a bit of a core exercise, so just love those wrists if you need to. Pause for a second if you need to. Again, I'm starting to find my really tender spots and beginning to really focus in on those. I don't spend a lot of time on the places that aren't that tender. I always explore and do passes over each muscle, but focusing a little bit heavier on the areas where I become a little bit more tender. And you can always choose to cross the opposite leg over for a little added weight if you can tolerate it. But massage should always be within your tolerance. It shouldn't be something that's making you hold your breath or get real anxious. And then we're going to switch the foam roller to the back side of our right upper leg, so our hamstrings. And you have hamstring tendons and muscle bulk that runs all along the back of the leg. So we're again going to do that windshield wiper motion so that we're hitting all three of our hamstring heads. And kind of starting to feel those tender spots. I feel it a little bit more in my inner hamstring area and middle hamstring area. So I'm focusing right there. I know sometimes when I'm not tender, I don't really feel this very much if I'm not very sore. But at times I feel this a lot. So if you don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the hamstrings, that's okay. But I definitely feel it today after my run yesterday. And kind of just putting a little bit of pressure down with my hand. Again, just very much exploring where I'm tight. You can do that leg crossover to add a little bit more weight, get a little bit deeper pressure if your body can tolerate it. And my shoulders are pretty tired here, so I'm going to take a break and lay back on the foam roller about to where my bra strap would sit. And I'm going to place my hands behind my head. If you have long hair, grab your hair up with your hands so you don't roll over it. And you can kind of back bend back on the foam roller or even start to roll up and down. You may feel little crunchies up here. That's okay as long as it's not painful. We're just trying to relax those shoulders. So I kind of open and close my elbows a lot. Just kind of not really spending a whole lot of time here, but just trying to relax my upper body for a second. And then when you're ready, grab the backs of your legs, and we're going to place that foam roller back underneath our left hamstring. And so we're going to go through the same routine here. Good rule of thumb is to do at least 10 passes on any given body area. And if you're not really feeling much, just go ahead and move on to the next space. If you're feeling a lot, like we said earlier, spend a little bit more time there. Focus in, dial in where you're feeling the most tender and start to apply a little bit more pressure there. Up and down and side to side for that cross friction massage. If you need a little bit more pressure, go ahead and cross that right leg over the left. Maybe even lifting that foot all the way up and putting your full body weight there. Trying to be conscious of your wrists and your fingers. We'll do a couple more passes on the hamstring and then we'll move on. So go ahead and grab your foam roller. We're going to go ahead and sit on top of it. And we're going to do the right side first. So what I want you to do is actually take your right hand behind you and roll to the squishy tissue of your right hip. So we don't want to be on bone. We want to stay in the squishy tissue and just start to roll up and down. So I do this a lot with my patients. Most of us get really tender in our piriformis and our glutes. So we're going to just spend a few moments here rolling up and down. And you can see I'm kind of opening and closing my knee, making different motions with my hip. And that makes me feel the muscles working and stretching against it. So you can kind of get in this little rhythm of opening and closing the knee if it feels good to you. But again, if that doesn't feel so good, just keep your knee still. And if you have the flexibility, we're going to cross your right ankle over your left thigh and maybe hug that knee in with your left forearm. And again, we're just rolling in there. And then you can push the knee away from you if it's available in your hip. And again, rolling up and down and just kind of seeing the difference between the two. And then maybe even opening and closing that knee as we roll up and down. Again, we're just really exploring and seeing what shapes our body can make and what makes us feel our tender spots. And this is going to change every single day that you do this practice. So I encourage you to come back to it and see the difference between different activities that you do. Okay, so now we're going to roll down into the IT band. This is a very tender spot for most people, so just go easy on it. You can rest on that right elbow like I'm doing, or you can prop up onto both hands if you need a little more support. We're going to bring that left foot in front of your right leg, and I don't want you to be on the bone of your right hip. I want you to go into that squishy tissue underneath and start to roll the foam roller down towards your knee and then back up towards the hip, but not rolling onto the bone. Rolling down and then rolling back up. So I'm using my arms and my left leg to offload my right leg a little bit if it feels too intense. And again, I said my right side's very tender, so this, I'm going very easy into it, nice and slow, up and down. I'm just making my 5 to 10 passes, exploring where I'm starting to get really tight, and then I'm starting to find those really tender spots that I'm going to go side to side and work into a little bit slower. And this can be really intense, so keep breathing. Try to find the calm and the uncomfortable, but again, if it's too intense, just back off, modify as you need to. You can even bend that right knee a little bit and explore and see how bending and moving your body in a different way makes you feel that totally differently. Kind of seeing how all of our muscles and tendons are connected together throughout our whole body. Remember to keep breathing. Now, if this is not tender at all, you could lay that left leg right on top of the right and just take total body weight. But that is way too intense for me on this side, but I will do it on the other side and show you. So we're going to start to roll into like almost a plank position and hike your left knee up, and we're going to roll your right quad. So you have 4 muscles on the front of your leg, your quads. And I'm going to use my elbows and my upper body to help roll me up and down. And just like every other part of our leg, we're windshield wiper blading that toe in and out to cover all of the muscles on the front of the thigh. I have so many trigger points in my quads, so I like to spend a lot of time here, but this is super intense. So just keep breathing and offload as you need to. Kind of taking this as an opportunity to stretch those shoulders out as well. Using your whole body to facilitate this massage. Start to work into that inner thigh a little bit more. So your adductors. These muscles help stabilize your leg as you are running or walking. And they get deceivingly tender. You wouldn't think it, but they really do. We'll spend a couple more moments here. Rolling from the top of your thigh all the way down to your knee. And then we're going to roll off the foam roller, and then we're going to take a break and just roll onto that upper back again. So I know the upper body can be a little fatigued. Let's take a moment just to roll out your upper back, open up your heart, drop your chest back, and then lift your head back up. Open your heart, drop it back. Upper back bend, getting some thoracic extension. And then you can begin to lift your bum and roll up and down. Again, kind of staying in that upper back area. We don't want to roll into the low back. And I'm kind of rolling side to side, like windshield wiper blading my upper body back and forth, kind of hitting my lats as I go. This foam rolling session is going to be heavily focused on the legs, but you can spend a lot more time in the upper body if you want to. And then we're going to sit back on top of the foam roller, and we're going to do that same routine on the left side. So rolling to the squishy tissue of your left hip. Both feet on the floor, left hand is behind you. And just start to roll up and down on the glutes and the piriformis, your rotators, your deep rotators in your hip. And you can start to open and close that left knee if that feels good to your hip. And just kind of seeing how this side may feel a little different than your right side. If you have the flexibility, you can cross left ankle over right thigh, but if that doesn't feel good to you, obviously keep that left foot down. You can push that knee away from you, open up into external rotation a little bit more. And then begin to open and close the knee as you roll up and down. And just finding those tender spots. And then we'll begin to work into the IT band. So roll the foam roller right below your hip bone on that squishy tissue. And we're going to roll from the hip down towards the knee on the outer edge of your leg. And just take your time. Don't worry about the shapes that I'm making. Modify as you need to if this is too intense. Take a little bit more weight off by propping up onto your hands. Doing a couple of easy passes back and forth, kind of figuring out where you're super tender. And you can see on this side, I can tolerate having my full body weight on that leg, but not for very long. It's still pretty sore. And then you can begin to bend the left knee and explore what that feels like on the IT band. And use your core muscles to support your upper body. Push into your left shoulder so you're not putting too much pressure in your neck and in the shoulder bones. Good. And then we're going to spin on towards our quads. So both elbows are down, my chest is facing the floor, and I'm rolling from upper thigh down to knee. And you can look at my foot as it moves inward and then as it rolls outward. So internal and external rotating the hip to really hit all of my quads. And I'm hiking that right knee up to the side to offload the pressure a little bit, just because this is pretty intense for me. Now you can bend your right knee, just like we did with the IT band, and explore and see what that feels like on the quads. It's kind of stretching the quads out as we roll over them. If you want to pause for a moment and really work into an area, feel free to do so. I kind of circle back into the IT band for just a moment, and then I'm going to roll all the way back onto my hips. So now we're going to work into your quadratus lumborum. So we're going to roll to your side and place the foam roller right below your last rib. And it's this little space right between the rib and the hip. And we have a square shaped muscle that gets pretty tight in most people. My right side is much tighter than my left. But we're just going to apply some pressure and stretch your left foot forward. Take your left hand to the back of your head. Open up and then rotate your left elbow towards the ground as you stretch your left foot back. So we're just going to do some rotation and pinning that muscle down. So left foot forward, open your chest. Left elbow down, left leg back, and just rotate. And take your time here. We're going to do that one more time. So stretch your left foot forward, open your chest, and then reach your foot back and rotate. Getting some thoracic rotation here as well. And then I'm just going to start to roll up and down on that QL. And we're not really massaging your bones here. We want to stay in squishy tissue. So this is going to be a very short pulsed movement. But I am super sore on my right side, so I really feel this here. I don't feel it as much on my left as I do my right. And we're just going to stretch that for a second by propping up onto your right hand and really just dropping that right rib cage down towards the floor. And then we'll do a couple more passes on that QL, kind of rolling side to side, back and forth. And remember, let pain be your guide. If it doesn't feel good, just don't work into that area. Take a break. Same thing opposite side, and you can see a little bit better here. So we're going to find that last rib, and we're going to drop down into that squishy tissue between the ribs and the hip. And I'm going to take my right hand behind my head and open my chest as I stretch my right leg forward, and then just switch that right foot back and rotate my right elbow towards my left hand. Open the heart, stretch your leg forward, and then rotate that right elbow towards the floor as you stretch your right leg back. We're going to do that one more time. Opening up, getting a little bit of thoracic rotation on this side, and exhale, twisting down. And then we'll just take a few moments just to kind of roll onto that QL. As you can see, it's very small motions, up and down, and then maybe a little side to side. Propping up on your left hand, maybe reach your right leg forward, and you can see my back has got this little lateral curve in it where I'm stretching out that side waist. And I'm just breathing into that left rib cage. Then maybe a couple more rolls up and down on that left QL or your quadratus lumborum. And then we'll one more time roll the upper back out. Opening and closing the elbows. Go at whatever pace feels good to you. Nice and easy. And then we're going to roll all the way down to our back and take that foam roller and prop our head up on it. And I want you just to roll your head from side to side and stretch out your cervical musculature, so your neck, your cervical spine. You're going to feel your occiput here, so the base of your skull. Maybe a little bit sore, a little bit tender. So just kind of rolling side to side, nice and easy. And then maybe making that a little bit shorter, coming a little closer into the midline. And I'm pretty sore on my neck, so I'm spending a little more time here. But if that doesn't really feel very sore to you, you can just rest your head. And we're done foam rolling here, so we can end your practice with that and take a few moments on the floor. But we're going to continue on to stretch and rock and roll up and down to come into a downward facing dog. So take your time. We're going to do about 3 to 5 rock and rolls, and when you're ready, make your way to down dog. Spread your fingers wide, start to pedal your feet out, and just start to stretch your calf muscles. And then we're going to drop down into hands and knees and do a few cat-cows. So sink your belly down, bring your gaze forward, and then curl your back up, move your chin to your chest as you exhale. Inhale, drop belly down, look forward. Exhale, curl in and round up. Inhale, belly down, look forward. Exhale, curl and round up. And then we're going to tuck your toes and sit back onto your heels and stretch out your plantar fascia or the bottoms of your feet. I'm going to take a moment to do a little fixing of my hair, but we're just going to stay here and rest and stretch out your toes, stretch out your feet. And start to gather your breath. So place one hand on your heart and feel your chest rise and fall with your inhales and exhales. And then one hand on your belly, starting to deepen the breath into your belly. Hands stay there, but we're going to untuck your toes and stretch out the front of your ankle now. And if this is too intense, you can support with your hands or blocks or a blanket. And then we'll gently come back into hands and knees and then sink back into downward facing dog. We're going to peek to the top of your mat, walk, step, or hop. Inhale, come to a halfway lift, and exhale, fold in. We're going to soften your knees, grab opposite elbows, and hang in a ragdoll. You can stay here or sway side to side, but I don't want this to be too intense on your back. So bend your knees as much as you need to let your back relax. Shake your head yes and no, let your neck relax. And then place your hands back on your shins, extend your spine long, halfway lift, and exhale, pull in and fold. Inhale, long spine, sweep your hands over your head, and exhale, fold back down through heart center all the way towards the floor. Inhale, find your halfway lift. And exhale, plant your hands on the mat, step into a plank pose, and drop down into your knees. Keep your core tight as you lower your chest all the way to the floor. And on your next breath in, find a cobra. Exhale, wave to the mat, sit back into child's pose when you're ready. Stretching the arms out long. Take a breath in and take a breath out. Waving forward into a modified plank, up and back, downward facing dog. Inhale, peek to the top of your mat. Take a walk, step, or float to the top. Inhale, come to halfway lift. And then exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sweep your heart up high, come to standing. Hands overhead, touch. And exhale, fold all the way down towards the floor. Inhale, find your halfway lift. And exhale, plant hands, come into plank pose, knees or toes, lower all the way to the mat. Inhale, find your lower high cobra. And exhale, sit back into child's pose. Take one breath in and one breath out. And then we'll wave forward into modified plank, into downward facing dog. And then we're going to step the feet together, lift your right heel high to the sky, start to bend your right knee, stack that right hip on top of left, and then flex your foot and push that heel away from you, stretching your leg back out straight and square your hips, drawing that right knee to nose, step right foot to right thumb, and sink your left heel to the floor. Now really push that right knee forward a lot, open up the hip flexor. And then placing both hands on your knee, push yourself up into low lunge. Untuck left toes, tuck your pelvis underneath you. And then take a breath in as you reach your left hand high and lean to the right, opening up that psoas on the left side. Squeeze your bum, really feel the stretch. And then inhale, reach hands up high. Exhale, place your fingertips down. We'll extend your right knee long for a hamstring stretch and pull your toes towards your face. And then you can start to circle your foot around, starting to feel the outer edges of your leg, one way and then the other. Take a breath in and then exhale, sink back into your lunge, place hands on the mat, step into plank. Knees or toes lower half or all the way down into cobra or upward facing dog on a breath in, and then exhale, downward facing dog. Feet step together, left heel high, stack that left hip by bending the left knee. Flex your foot and push your left heel away from you. Square your hips. Left knee rolls towards left thumb. And then step left foot to left thumb. Sink that back heel down. Knee comes really far forward. And then place your hands on your thigh. Lift yourself up as you untuck your right toes. Inhale, reach your right hand high and sweep over to the left, deepening the stretch in your right psoas. Squeeze the bum. Take a breath in and sweep your fingertips up high to the sky. And exhale, place hands either side of that left foot. Extend your left leg long, pull your toes back towards your face. Walk your hands back a little to support your upper body. And start to roll your foot one circle and then switch the circle, starting to feel the whole leg stretch. Rebend into a low lunge, step back into plank pose. Knees or toes, lower half or all the way down. And then come to your back bend of choice, upward dog or cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, sweep your right leg high, stack the right knee and hip on top of left. If you feel good, we're going to flip the dog into wild thing here. Open up your heart, or you can just stay where you were. Gather up your core. Everyone square the hip back up. We're going to draw right knee towards right thumb into pigeon pose. Now, if this is too intense, you can grab that foam roller or a block that's close by and prop your hip up just to take a little pressure off the right piriformis. But if that feels pretty good, we're going to sink into the right hip, open up your heart. And we're going to place our left elbow down on the ground, circle our right hand back, and try to reach for that left foot. And we're going to get a little quad stretch. If that's too intense, just leave the leg down. And then when you're ready, we'll come into a fold And try to relax a little bit here. Jillian's being super cute today. So you can stack your fists and let your head rest there, or you can rest all the way down onto the mat, or you can stay propped up onto your elbows. But we're just going to take a few breaths to sink into pigeon pose on this right side. And then when you're ready, we're going to begin to lift our chest, step back into down dog, and shake that right leg out a little bit, maybe pedal the feet. And we're going to do the same thing on the left side. So our left foot's going to reach up. We're going to stack our left hip on top of the right and bend the knee and stay here. Or begin to flip the dog, move into wild thing, open up the heart. And no matter where you are, we're going to gather up the core, stretch that left leg straight up into the sky, and pull left knee towards left thumb for pigeon pose. Grabbing a block or your foam roller if you need to, open up your heart, and we're going to place our right elbow on the mat as we stretch our left hand back. And we're going to try to bend the right knee and grab for the foot so we can stretch the quads out on our right side. Some people are not going to be able to grab that foot, and that is totally okay. Just stay in your fold. Don't force your body into a shape it does not want to go into. When you're ready, we'll come into a deeper fold if it feels good to you. And just take a few moments to soften your breath, begin to relax, feeling a deep stretch on the left side of your hip. Deep breaths in and deep breaths out. Begin to lift the chest, place your hands on the mat, tuck your back toes, step into down dog, maybe shake that left leg out, walk in place just a bit. And we're going to begin to sink down into hands and knees and widen your knees up really wide. So maybe coming off of your yoga mat even a little bit so you can turn to the side if you need to cushion those knees, or fold your ends of your yoga mat up to give you a little bit more cushion. I'm on this really large mat, so I have plenty of space. But we're going to try to make 90-degree angles with your lower leg and upper leg, and we're just going to use the elbows to push your weight back. You're going to feel this in your inner thigh pretty deeply. So only going as deep as it feels good to you. We don't want any alarms going off in the brain. This should just feel like a comfortably uncomfortable stretch, I'll say. A little frog pose. And you can stay there. You may want to try to lift one foot up off for some more internal rotation activation. See if that feels good to you. If you can even do that motion, it's pretty tough for me. And then we're going to inch our way back up into hands and knees. Sit back on your heels for a moment, and then we'll come into a seated position. Grabbing the backs of your legs, we're going to roll all the way down onto your back and hug your knees in towards your chest. You can stay here, you can make little circles with your knees, kind of massage that low back out. When you're ready, we're going to drip the knees over to the right edge of your mat and open your hands to a T shape. Flip your palms up to the sky and look over to your left palm. And maybe close the eyes. Really start to surrender into the floor here. And then we'll roll one knee up and over, and then we're just going to switch sides. So now knees drip over to the left edge of your mat and look over to your right palm for a full spinal twist. And then we'll begin to roll our gaze up, roll our knees in towards our chest, hug in for just a moment, maybe squeeze knees to forehead, and then we'll stretch out for one last position of our practice, shavasana. We'll take about 5 deep, slow, relaxed breaths in and out here. closing the eyes, melting into the floor. And then take a breath in, stretch your fingers overhead long, stretch your toes to the end of your mat, and gently roll to one side of your body. Take a moment for gratitude here, for taking time out of your day just to love your body. And then coming up to sit whenever you're ready, we'll place our hands at heart center. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Namaste.